These days, the moment you say you're Jewish, everyone thinks you're rabidly pro-Israel, want Gaza wiped off the surface of the earth, and are part of a WhatsApp group called Oy vey, we control the banks. Anti-Semitism is currently reaching levels not seen since Adolf started writing a book about a struggle he was having. Every time I open social media, I see some dribbling lunatic squawking about how the Jews are to blame for everything.
Do you like satire? I love satire. Sometimes you just gotta laugh also, especially look around, everything going on in the world, all sorts of crazy things, wars going on, Jew hatred is on the rise from the radical right to the radical left. Everywhere you look, people are not Jews, but sometimes you have to be able to take a step back and just laugh. Just laugh at what's going on. And Friancis Foster over here, who's one of the hosts on the Trigonometry podcast, he does a really great job at giving a satirical breakdown of all of the Jew haters out there and what their belief system is. So let's watch this clip together and then talk about it. But first, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Check this out.
I look like a Jew, get me out of here. I'm from a mixed heritage background. My mother is Venezuelan and my dad is from Wigan. And for some peculiar reason, I look Jewish. Or as it's now known, Zionist. Historical definitions aside, nowadays Zionist has obviously just become the trendy way to say Jew without sounding explicitly racist. These days, the moment you say you're Jewish, everyone thinks you're rabidly pro-Israel, want Gaza wiped off the surface of the earth, and are part of a WhatsApp group called Oy vey, we control the banks. Anti-Semitism is currently reaching levels not seen since Adolf started writing a book about a struggle he was having. Every time I open social media, I see some dribbling lunatic squawking about how the Jews are to blame for everything. But hey, if Grok wants to bang a line of coke and start spitting truth bombs, who am I to judge? It recently called itself Mecca Hitler and said the white man stands for innovation, grit, and not bending to PC nonsense. It's only a matter of time before Grok gets cancelled and then interviewed by Tucker Carlson. The humans peddling this narrative are of an incredibly high intellectual caliber. Esteemed academics like former MMA fighter Jake Shields. Who better to have a nuanced, thoughtful conversation about geopolitics than a man who's been elbowed in the temple repeatedly for over a decade? Although don't mention temple around Jake, it reminds him too much of synagogue. Jake, if you're watching, please don't get angry. I'm only joking, and I've always been a huge fan of your work. Everything you say is brilliant, and your work on repealing the 19th Amendment is both brave and timely. Or Dan Bilzerian, a man who became famous for shagging models, playing poker, and shagging models. He's like James Bond if James never escaped that laser beam. It cut out part of his brain, and whilst he was recovering in hospital, he did nothing but mainline Nick Fuentes. But there is a very real problem that these individuals are everywhere and they have huge influences. The likes of Andrew Tate refusing to condemn October the 7th and describing it as an act of masculine resistance. To be fair, he's never shied away from violence towards women and rape, so it's on brand. Or Kanye West writing a song called Heil Hitler. Somehow racism doesn't seem that bad when you put a sick beat to it. The only issue is I can't sing in public because it has the N-word in it. Kanye can make people dance to one of the most horrific phrases in the history of the German language. Turns out he really is a genius. The last year has been a red-pilling moment for a lot of Jews, especially left-wing Jews, who all got on board the woke train embracing identity politics. If there's one thing Jewish people should never do, it's adopt an ideology that separates everyone into their own ethnic and religious groups. Or get on a train. Because if you're more likely to be successful, overrepresented in the professions and awards such as the Nobel Prize for Physics, then people are going to get jealous and think you control the media. But if you watch TV for 10 minutes, it's ridiculous to think the Jews control the media, because it's obviously the gays. By the way, I've met a lot of people in the media, and believe me, they can't even control themselves around a buffet, let alone a narrative. And which narrative? I mean, the BBC has been so biased lately, even Hamas have started paying their TV licence. Those lads can't be trusted to run a creche, let alone the state-sponsored broadcaster. I mean, They really can't be trusted to run a creche. Speaking of creches, the Glastonbury Music Festival happened a couple of weeks ago, and they booked two bands who were a little more pro-Hamas than your average, Kneecap and Bob Vylan. Bob Vylan started chants of "Death to the IDF," which went viral across the globe and immediately became their biggest hit. To be fair, it's probably the most lyrically sophisticated thing they've ever written. He also went on a rant about working for a Zionist and how demeaning that was. Of course you work for a Zionist, Bob. You worked in the music industry. There are quite a lot of Jewish record executives. But the good thing about Bob is that he's got his pronouns in his bio, so he doesn't know what a woman is, but he does know about the concept of occupied land. Old Bobby Vylan has a luxury belief set of supporting both the LGBTQ community and Hamas. I guess he must think the latter's beheadings of the former is just extreme gender-affirming surgery. Plus, he eats vegan ice cream, so in between all the Jew hatred, you know he's a good person. This, of course, has all been stoked by the terrible war that's happening in the Middle East, where thousands of people are losing their lives. Both sides have endured terrible civilian casualties. Although, to be fair, Hamas's rockets are about as reliable as Elon when he gets on the ketamine and he's had a row with Trump. I don't think Irish band Kneecap saying the words "Up Hamas" and "Up Hezbollah" whilst one of them wears a crusty orange cum sock on his head is going to help matters. If anything, it might put a few people off. And that's the problem with this entire debate. Too many people are hooked on cheap slogans and simple rhymes. Because you don't need to think when you chant. You can just mindlessly repeat the mantra and be on the right side of history. And that's what's terrifying, because even Hitler thought he was on the right side of history. Although, to be fair to Adolf, he wouldn't have been seen dead at a Bob Vylan gig, have pronouns in his bio, or eat vegan ice cream. Even psychopaths have standards.
He actually brought out a very deep point over here, that people who have gone through traumatic experiences often will use comedy as a form of healing, as a form to get them through their tough times. And this is something that's not new. But it's something that sociologically is something relevant to the Jewish people, because the Jewish people have been constantly oppressed over the centuries and have also been sort of the source, the nucleus of comedy, specifically in the United States. They've been a very funny people. The Jewish people are known to be funny. All of the early comedians and some of the most famous comedians today are Jewish. It's not exclusive to the Jewish world, but there are a lot of funny Jews out there. And so there's actually a verse in the Torah where one of the commentaries says that this is the source of Jewish comedy. Where one of the verses in the Torah, when the Jewish people are being confronted by the Egyptians from behind and the sea in front of them, and they're not sure what to do, and the Jewish people cry out, "What? There weren't enough graves in Egypt, Moses? You had to bring us out here to die?" And so, like that, the sarcasm that's in that verse. One of the great Torah commentaries, Rabbi Shimshon Farel Hirsch, he mentions that this is an indicator. This is the first time that you see Jewish people reacting to their hardships in the form of comedy, like trying to make light of the situation in order to deal with the trauma and the grief. And so, yeah, there's a lot of depth to this. It is funny, but it's not just funny. And so there's something that we can certainly learn from that as well. If you like this content overall, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Take care.